to where you want to go. And where you want to go is to work together to solve problems. I've been there for 44 years in the State Senate and in the Congress. If you ask Jack Cade, who was the minority leader of the Maryland State Senate, he would say, Steny Hoyer and I worked together. If you ask Roy Blunt, the minority whip of the Congress of the United States up until 2 years ago, he would say Steny Hoyer and I worked together.
Thank you.
The next question will start with Mr. Schickel. If elected, what will you do for the 5th Congressional District?
Well, the first thing what I'd like to say is that I'm going to do for the 5th Congressional District what I would like to see happen for all of America, that is getting this debt under control, getting this government under control, getting this government out of our daily lives, and getting back to the job that our government was meant to do, which is facilitate our daily actions, not try and tell us how to live our daily lives.
Mr. Hoyer.
You know, when I first started representing St. Mary's County was 18 years ago. And there was a sign, a bumper strip that everybody had in their car. Keep Nessie here. I did that. I didn't do it alone. I did it in conjunction working with a lot of people. But if you ask Bob Waxman, not somebody, frankly, who just registered 4 years ago, not somebody who was running during that period of time for 3 separate offices and announcing to run for 2 others in the state of Georgia. If you ask people who were here, who watched the process, who know what happened, they will say, yes, Steny Hoyer made a difference on keeping Nessie here. Nessie provides 2,800 jobs. They will say that Steny Hoyer made a great deal of difference working with others to take Pax River, which was at some risk, from 12,000 jobs to 22,000 jobs today. They will say that Steny Hoyer in Prince George's County, Calvert County, Anne Arundel County, and Charles County has done things throughout the 18 years he's represented Southern Maryland and throughout the 30 years that he's represented Prince George's and Southern Maryland. It's nice to talk. I'm not going to go through the list. Many of you know it. One of Mr. Lawler's supporters told me the other day, I'm tired of hearing brag. Our bases are still at risk. I've done the job. I'll continue to do it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Lawler.
What would I do for the constituents in the 5th Congressional District? I will create an atmosphere where our citizens can get back to work. It's tough to pay your mortgage bills when you don't have a job. I will work in partnership with businesses across the 5th Congressional District, as well as corporations outside the 5th, as well as our governor, whoever it may be, to see if we can get more corporations to make decisions, to bring their jobs here to Maryland. What a great place to work, live, and play. We have some of the best resources here in our state. I'll take care of I'll work hard to ensure that the influence of our bases through national security is well known. That our bases are known for the quality of research, development, testing, and evaluation, and things are known for because of hardworking admirals and captains and generals, and quite honestly, enlisted personnel as well, and the hard work they do on those bases every day, every week. So those bases aren't known for one person, but rather are known for a collection of individuals, teams, less I and more we. I'll ensure that the same way we look at bases like Quantico and Fort Meade and even Fort Gillem, you don't think about one person. You should never say that about our bases because they're so rich and fertile in terms of what they bring and what they present. And also, I will work very hard to ensure we develop necessary partnerships throughout the entire district so that we can encourage education, educational improvements, specifically through competition, allowing for charter schools, allowing for vouchers, so that we can ensure that our students have the same opportunities as those who go to the private school.
Thank you. This question will begin with Mr. Hoyer. The question is, given that senior citizens will not be given a cost of living increase in their Social Security payments this year, Can you explain or justify why federal employees will get a cost of living pay raise this year?
Well, federal employees have not gotten a pay raise this year, and I'm glad that question was asked. Mr. Lawler has said numerous occasions that Congress took a pay raise. The Congress did not take a pay raise and hasn't taken a pay raise for 2 years for exactly the reasons that he said, accurately. Our country is experiencing great pain, and we have not taken a pay raise. I don't know why he keeps saying that. Either he doesn't know the answer or he's misrepresenting it. I don't know that. Now, with respect to the COLA, I think that's an issue that's going to be addressed, and I have some real thoughts that we ought to constrain federal employees as well as every other employee as well. The President has suggested a 1.4% increase in the cost of living based upon the law, which I will talk about in a minute. But I believe that we ought to review that, and I've talked to a number of federal employee unions and said to them, I think we need to have constraint here, given the tough times that confront all of our country.
Thank you. Mr. Lawler.
Thank you so much. Let me deal with the issue and then come back to a few statements. Our senior citizens deserve the best representation, specifically where their Social Security is concerned, bar none. They bought into an idea many years ago that if they set their money aside and trusted it to our federal government, they would have their Social Security to fall back on. To see that it did not get a cost of living increase is actually painful, not just for me, but I'm sure for so many seniors, and mainly because I want to work hard to represent you. We have to do something about these laws that are on the books that allow for Congress to stick their hands into Social Security and bail out their own pork barrel projects. We need to balance the budget. We need to do all those things that we talk about every day, common sense stuff, so we can ensure that our seniors continue to get what they've already rightfully paid into the system for. When it comes to these issues where Congress took a pay increase and other issues as such, like, for example, we did not make the comment at North Point High School that I'll go it alone. Please, when you're reviewing the video, pay attention to the very last question, because many of us were there, and we did hear what was said. And I'm only saying that because if you're going to debate, if you're going to have a forum, be honest. That's all I ask. And as long as you're honest, I can sit on a podium with you. But if you're not, it's a bit difficult for me. Sometimes that Marine side comes out, you know.
Oh, for crying.
Mr. Schickel.
Ooh,
Before the time starts, can you please repeat the question, because I really want to make sure I heard that
Certainly.
one
The
correctly.
question was, given that seniors will not be receiving a cost of living increase in their Social Security payments, can it be justified that federal employees would receive a cost of living raise?
Well, I can tell you as a member of a party who truly wants smaller government that there is no justification for any spending increases that we are doing right now, for the most part. This question actually kind of takes me aback because it's such a very direct and distinct question. I mean, you know, $14 trillion worth of debt is what we have right now, and that's the official debt. That's stuff that they can't hide off the books. You know, if you start adding Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in there, the debt that'll immediately skyrocket by $6 trillion. You know, this country is drowning in debt. We have to cut spending. We have got to cut spending. It's not a choice at this point. If we want to have a country in the next 10 years, we have got to cut spending, and we're going to have to start across the board, everywhere. You know, as I've already said, we could start by cutting the pay for our elected leaders. We could start cutting. You know, we could start bringing our troops home from overseas. All these measures will save us money to pay towards this debt.
For the next question, we'll start with Mr. Lawler, and the question is, what have you done or would you do to improve transportation in Maryland?
Well, you don't have to sit too long on 301 or 210 or 4 on Tuesday morning to see that we have a huge problem when it comes to our transportation infrastructure. In some respects, John, it's a blessing because we've been able to see, in some respects, job growth that promoted more neighborhoods, which promoted more traffic. But did you know, for example, that Prince George's County 25% of government employees come right from Prince George's County, another 10.5 to 12% from Charles County. We have to do a better job bringing satellite offices into the 5th Congressional District, specifically in Charles and in Prince George's County. I'm sure we could do some things here in St. Mary's and Calvert as well, but especially those two counties, because such a large amount of traffic leaves the home and goes into D.C. We also have to do a better job of seeing if we can promote more working from home. I like some of the programs that are already going on where many of our federal workers can stay home on Fridays as long as they work an extra hour during the week. All of those things work well. But if we're going to fix our infrastructure problem, we're going to have to do more in terms of partnerships, working full-time as congressmen and congresswomen to make sure we're doing these things to take that excess traffic off the road. Then, with even more growth coming, at least we anticipate as such, we have to spend real dollars in building up these roads, especially in Charles and Prince George's County. It's going neglected for many reasons, which I can state, but we have to take transportation and our infrastructure seriously. You cannot grow at a rapid rate without keeping infrastructure in mind.
Mr. Schickel.
I'll tell you, this is an issue that we definitely need to work on, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the answer is. I can tell you that it would benefit me greatly to be able to get this issue taken care of, because if I have an 8 o'clock call at somewhere, for instance, the Verizon Center or the Kennedy Center, I have to leave my house at 6 o'clock in the morning to make sure that I don't get caught in traffic and become late for work. I would much rather leave my house at 7:20 or 7:30 to make it into D.C. if I have an 8 o'clock call. So you can tell, I deal with the same problem that many of you deal with, and that's congestion on the roads. If I like I said, if I have an 8 o'clock call, if I leave my house at 6:10, I risk being late for work, and I live in Indian Head. So it's definitely a problem that needs to be solved. I really just don't know what the answer is, and I wish I had a better answer for you than that, but I don't.
Mr. Hoyer.
Thank you. First of all, because we don't have any rebuttal in this debate, let me say I hear Mr. Lawler talking about the COLA. Very interesting, because at a forum he indicates that he's open to privatizing Social Security, which I think is not something that ought to be done, and I'm going to fight to make sure that those who are proposing privatizing Social Security don't prevail. His party is doing that through Mr. Ryan, who would be chairman of the Budget Committee. Now, on transportation, I can only assume, again, because Mr. Lawler was in Georgia over the last 20 years that I've been working on transportation issues in Maryland, in Prince George's County, in Charles County, in St. Mary's County, in Calvert County. To this county, I brought $50 million alone for transportation issues to make our roads better, to make them more passable, to widen 235, as all of those corporate jobs, apparently he thinks that 12,000 to 22,000 and other corporate jobs that came, he hasn't been down 235. You can't hardly go there for a week a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago without seeing a new corporate entity coming to St. Mary's County. He said he wanted to do that. I've done it. Metro, I was one of the principal workers on that. With whom? Frank Wolf. Who is Frank Wolf? A Republican from Virginia. He and I worked closely together in a bipartisan fashion. It's nice to talk about it, but you've got to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And this question will begin with Mr. Schickel. Today in America, the unemployment rate is 9.6%, and it has been above 9% for 17 straight months. As a member of the next Congress, what would you do differently than the current Congress to spur economic growth and job creation?
Well, I tell you what I won't say to you is that I'm going to create a lot of jobs, because, government cannot create jobs. If government could create jobs, 15 million people would not be out of work right now. Now, lots of people like to tell you that they can create jobs and that they have created jobs, even though they don't own a business themselves. Now, entrepreneurs are the ones who provide jobs for this nation, and we've got to get this government out of their way. We have unsustainable levels of taxation, or unreasonable levels of taxation on our businesses. We have all these burdensome regulations that are dragging them down. And I can tell you from personal experience that with my family's restaurant, that government regulation can put businesses out of business. You know, a lot of times people like to think that what they're doing is helping